We're standing in a trend line for the pandemic revenues. They were high, they went a little bit low, then they came. They came back up. Yeah.
Oh, it is October 26th, and as you can tell, we are not at home. We found this guy wandering around, and we're going to give you a couple stories today from in front of a couple of retailers. So we're outside the Tesla store. We are currently in Atlanta, Georgia. Are we incoming right now?
No, we're in Alpharetta.
We're at Glenn Lundy's 800% Club Elite Retreat. Is that what they call it? They should.
Elite Automotive Club. 800% Elite Automotive Club.
Elite Retreat. We're calling it the Elite Retreat.
Let's just say it's very successful and prestigious all at the same time.
Yes.
We're going to give you a couple stories today. The first one, let's just get right into the news, and then we're going to ask Michael what's going on in his life now that he's a Texan. So Hyundai announced yesterday that they are going to they broke ground. There's a lot of people and shovels.
All the shovels. They had like 40 people. They needed a lot of people because it's a mega plant that they're building just outside of about 30 miles outside of Savannah that's going to host up to 500,000 vehicles a year in production at some point.
It's actually a meta plant.
Is it a meta plant?
It's called a meta plant, not a mega plant.
And but were humans?
But it's in the real world.
Were humans digging, or were the robots digging?
Real humans, as far as we know, unless it was AI generated
Missed
imagery.
opportunity.
So it's a meta plant that is going to have an adjacent battery factory.
Yep.
So and they're going to build Kia, Hyundai's, and Genesis all in the same plant.
Yeah.
Be dedicated.
Wow.
You know what's interesting? The other kind of key note that I thought was really cool was, you know, a lot of times when plants go in, it's not just the plant that is the benefactor, or it's the state is not just the benefactor of that plant or what's happening there, but there's a lot of companies that are actually coming in around because they're rebuilding the supply chain for this plant. They're actually not like taking from supply chain across the rest of the ecosystem. They're building that supply chain locally. So a lot of job benefit, a lot of resources for Georgia, and I can't get over the fact that like Rivian's been like they're like, we're here.
Trying to do it?
No,
Hyundai's like,
watch
here we go.
This. Right.
Watch this.
It's funny, I interviewed Mike Colleran, who's a VP at Hyundai, and I was like, how are you going to get out of this whole chip shortage thing? Like, how are you going to get out of supply chain issues? And I could tell, I'm sure he already did something like this down the pipe. And so here we are. It's really interesting.
He's like, we have a couple ideas.
We might have an idea. We sketched it up somewhere.
Yeah. I was thinking, how do these companies all of a sudden know what it takes to build a battery plant and an EV manufacturing plant? It boggles my mind that everyone, just think of the logistics and the understanding you need to have. Just think of the permitting process, the construction process, the drawings, and everyone just seems to know how to do it all of a sudden.
Yeah, they're a lot smarter than us, I think.
No, that's not a far throw. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I know that it's still.
It's not a far throw. Well, I think the key thing is that I think, and this is what we've been saying, is like manufacturers are manufacturers. I actually don't think they're like the greatest at retail, and the reality is the reason why they're the manufacturers because they're great at putting up new plants and putting in supply chains and production and timelines and everything that has to do with that. That's their bread and butter, and so. It doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me like that this is coming alongside of things like EV tax credits and like they see these things coming. They see those trends coming. And so I just think that it's up to dealers to recognize that if that's the trend that they're projecting, that they're seeing coming is dealers and all of the retailers out there have to start looking ahead and going, what are we preparing for? How can we prove out that we're ready for things like EV tax credits? So we're ready for all of those types of things to be in process.
Speaking of being in process, Apple has announced that they confirmed that they're actually switching the iPhone to USB, but they are just so not happy about
USB-C.
it. USB-C, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah.
Let's be specific.
We're going back to USB 3.0. It's going to be real fun.
USB-C
Don't worry, guys.
will be,
everything will be quote-unquote fast, right?
So USB-C to be specific, but they're not happy about it.
They're not happy about it. We're actually... Paul, did you realize we're out front of an Apple store? How did we do that?
They're really upset over here.
Everyone's
like they were
so
just mad. They
and
just
she's
heard
laughing.
It. Yeah,
she's laughing in the background.
Well, she's just cleaning the screens
Yeah,
this morning.
exactly.
But the European Union actually mandated that USB-C is the new standard for any cell phone or what do you call it these days?
Any mobile device.
Mobile device.
So that cell phones and tablets
has to be USB-C. And I can't remember his name. Apple VP.
Yeah.
He went on a thorough explanation saying, we prefer to let the engineers who are smart dictate. This is what I heard. The smart people.
I don't think he actually
What
said
I,
this.
what
but
I
this
heard
is,
him say.
this is a direct quote.
This is
PJ's
how I read it.
direct quote.
From an Apple VP.
Yeah.
We prefer to let the really smart people make decisions about technology and not European lawmakers. Is what I heard.
That's what you heard.
I'll
That's okay.
leave the second part of what I heard. Just we'll keep that in my head. But
Which
you
is
can
an
fill in the
interesting,
blanks however you'd like.
Interesting concept, though, because also those European lawmakers are users.
Right.
No, they use Android devices.
No, they use Android devices.
Okay,
100%.
fair.
Yeah.
No, they're using Blackberries. Let's be honest.
Well, I think it's, for me, it's very interesting because there's constantly been this conversation about like charger waste or charger bricks, and then now you're not getting the brick in the phone, you're just getting the charger thing, and if you have the old charger, you got to throw those things away, and so
Then they just stopped including them.
right,
Yeah. They're like,
everything's
eh.
not included, right? But now you've got to kind of like retool your whole ecosystem for charging potentially, but also this is advantageous too. Like we actually, when thinking about auto manufacturing and the way that like chargers have to be done, when you go to a gas station, there's only one thing that you have to think about: putting it in the
What
side
side is it
slot,
on?
right? What side is
What
it on?
side-
Right?
Perpetually on the wrong side.
Always.
But actually, like charging from a vehicle infrastructure perspective has been a point of contention because everyone kind of has early on. It was.
Oh, if you have a
this is what our
Tesla, like
yeah.
we were just at, we're not going to go back to the Tesla.
No, we're not
story.
going back there.
But if you have a Tesla and you're at a non-Tesla charger, you now need a dongle. It's very
Exactly.
Apple-esque.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Apple's all about the dongles. But also, I'm still
Not
caught
anymore.
up on the European Union thing because have you been to Europe? Have you seen how they just have to plug regular plugs into the wall?
Oh,
it's
they're
a
wild.
weird. It's
Yeah.
a weird. It's weird, wild stuff. It's a contraption. So maybe they're just
And depending on the country.
and depending on the country,
Yeah.
it's also a different
So
setup.
maybe the standardization is fixing several problems. Apple did note, they said, look, this problem has largely been solved already with charging bricks and wireless charging, and European Union isn't having any
Well,
of
one
it.
of the options that was thrown out by at least the reporter was, hey, what if all you did was scrap the wired charger and just went complete wireless, right?
That makes me feel very uncomfortable.
Without a doubt, because I'm
Because
like,
it's not.
what do I- yeah.
It's just like
You always gotta carry around
it's just
this
like
magnet
EVs.
everywhere,
The
right?
magnet or the wireless charging isn't widely available.
Yes.
Right.
Not
if
to
there's wireless
mention-
chargers on all these tables, then
25 years from now, we're all going to be walking around with like lumps on our heads and arms and like growing boils
You mean-
because we didn't
Oh,
know
you're
the
like
impact
that.
of.
You're like
You
that.
didn't know
I
the
see.
impact of all the wireless floating through us.
Is this Mr. Cirillo, your father? No.
No, he would be like, "What language are they speaking?"
Right, exactly. That's fair. Well, I think either way, and we're seeing this stateside too, because the narrative of anything pop culture is also political at this point, is
Yeah.
the more things that become pop culture that are also political, so that includes charging, EVs, all of that. We just have to recognize that there are more factors at play driving technology. We know this in automotive, right? What OEMs have mandated from a technology, like, are OEMs the best people to mandate technology
Right.
Right.
requirements? And
Right.
and so anytime lawmakers or large companies get in the technology space, it always creates a barrier to speed of innovation. And so it's just being cognizant of that as an industry and knowing like the more we do that, the less and less the real technologists, the real engineers can push the boundaries.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was those same smart engineers that came up with the Google map or the maps that we were using last night to get back to the hotel.
Oh.
Who graciously pinpointed every location of each pine tree along the
they're
freeway.
the pines,
Nailed it.
they're the maples,
But couldn't
couldn't
get
get
the
the
vehicle.
construction
Yeah,
in the lane that we needed.
yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
they are the same. And I'm realizing one of the disadvantages of doing a morning show on location is that there's always a leaf blower, Kyle.
Every single time. It doesn't matter where we're at, there's a
Can you
leaf
get
blower.
the leaf blower
Someone
guy down
check the
there?
leaf
Oh, he's
blower
too
guy.
far, but he's
Oh,
far
I
enough.
thought that was Aunt Edna clearing her throat.
Yeah. No, there's always Kyle and I. Whenever we go on location,
Everywhere.
and we're like, hey, and then there's a truck. So if you're just listening to the show, we're in a very busy area right now. We're in front of an Apple store. We were
Yep.
just in front of a Tesla store.
You got Peloton, Lululemon, everything is
Nike
here.
store. We were just
Yeah.
trying to find a story for every one of them. Let's wrap the show up. We're at the 800% Elite Retreat, whatever we want to call it. We hung out with a lot of dealers last night. Asked a lot of questions about what are they thinking, how are they postured going into 2023. The overall sentiment seems that people are fired up. The people who are prepared and ready are like, oh, it's going to be carnage out there,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be on top of the pile when we get into 2023. That was my perception. How about you
Yeah,
guys?
I mean, when you listen to them, most of them took their stripes in 08, 09, and they're like, we're not doing that again.
Right.
But, you know, as they all kind of shared a similar sentiment, the thought that came to my mind was, you have to experience the pain to know that you never want to experience it ever again.
That's true.
And so here's iteration 2.0, maybe even 3.0 for some of these dealers that are like, I'm prepared. They're trained. Like, you
it's
listen
like
to
people
them.
have had combat training. They've been
Yeah,
in
they're
live
training.
combat. They go on the second
Yeah,
time. They're like, oh,
100%.
I know how not to get killed this time.
100%.
Yeah, I think that the other sentiment to me is that people have not just been like, everyone thinks like, get my processes, get my technology in line, but everybody in the room was going, I'm trying to make sure that I have the right people in the right places, because I know I can't be there 100% of the time to make sure all the levers are pulled.
Yep.
And so I'm putting the right people in the right places. I'm constantly after the right people. We're recruiting heavy. We're after those people. Like, even people, I think on the podcast, they were hoping at some point people, I'm going to go work for them,
Yes.
right? There was kind of like a recruiting call on the podcast.
for sure.
You know? And so I think that that's just that's a through line for a lot of people that are kind of thinking ahead. They're thinking, what's my people strategy going into the next year?
Well, thanks for spending a few minutes with us in your morning today. We're going to head back in, spend the rest of the day with some dealers and some industry partners, trying to learn a little bit, have a little bit of fun, and bring some of it back to you.